The human body has 78 organs, but presumably we're not talking about human organs. Which organ is the best tasting? In this video, I'll be talking about your vital organs and be ranking them from worst to best. I will also be providing you with some stats on which organs are the healthiest to eat. And spoiler alert, a lot of these organs are the healthiest meats. Most people just don't because of how unorthodox they are. I will be talking about 10 different organs because of how many organs there are and how much they vary in different animals. For example, a cow has 4 different stomachs, an octopus has 3 hearts. You get the idea. There's just too many organs. But the 10 organs I will be talking about today are, not in order by the way, brain, heart, lungs, intestines, anus, skin, liver, stomach, testicles, and tongue. No, I am not a cannibal. And with all that being said, and hoping I'm not forgetting anything, let us begin. Starting off with the organ that keeps everything in order, the CEO of the body, the brain. Almost every animal has a brain besides jellyfish, and people who aren't subscribed to the goat. The brain is a very nutrient-rich part of the body. We'll be going over 100 gram servings for every meat to make things a little bit easier. 100 grams of cow brain has 11 grams of protein, magnesium, iron, vitamin C, vitamin B12, niacin, etc. Niacin, also known as B3 vitamin, the body makes. The body uses niacin to turn food into energy. It helps keep the nervous system, digestive system, and skin healthy. Very interesting, right? Unfortunately, brain isn't as common as the other organs in many different countries because it is a little bit more dangerous of an organ to be consuming. And as for taste, some people compare it to dairy or even firm fish roe, which is like fish eggs. The texture is typically described as a creamy but firm, like curdled yogurt or lumpy tofu. I've never tried brain, but the texture sounds absolutely disgusting. But for being nutrient dense, I would give it a C tier. Funny how my brain is telling me to put brain in C tier, hating its own kind. Call me Jimmy Neutron the way she gives me brain until I blast. Let's move on to testicles, scientifically known as the balls, and where the pee is stored. Testicles compared to the brain have more protein, having 18 grams per 85 gram servings. I don't know why Google is telling me by 85 grams, but let's go with it. Testicles are pretty high in cholesterol, but testicles also contain iron, magnesium, selenium, and zinc, along with fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, K, and vitamin B12. A single raw bull testicle contains 26 grams of protein and very little fat, so they are a great source of protein for any of you gym rats. Testicles and brain are both good in nutrients, but since testicles, in my opinion, eaten more regularly around the world, they get a B tier. As for the taste, some describe the taste as a mix between venison and chicken, with a slight gamey undertone. Sounds tastier than brain and something I would actually try. If this video gets 10,000 likes, I'll eat testicles. The next organ we have will be dedicated to the organ that helps us actually digest these delicious meals. The stomach. The stomach, or some people would call it tripe, which is like edible stomach lining. The thing I've noticed for most of these organs is how high in nutrients they are compared to other parts of the animal. Tripe is high in protein and nutrient rich. Vitamin B12, selenium, zinc, calcium, those are just some of the high nutrient content in the meat, with a lot more nutrients. Tripe has very few downsides, being high in collagen, which can cause some stomach problems, and high in cholesterol, because why not? Tripe isn't eaten as much as testicles in my opinion, but tripe sounds like a very underrated part of an animal. Beef tripe taste has been described as a mild, somewhat bland flavor that is often described as beefy or faintly liver-like. Usually, beef tripe has a bunch of seasoning and other ingredients to make it taste better. I'll give tripe a B tier as well, above testicles though. Next, we have a weird choice of an organ that's either the most popular or the least popular. You'll know what I mean by that in a second. You know how people eat chicken skin, right? But have you ever thought of eating cow skin? Well, usually cow skin is more valuable for other uses than food. There are some countries that do eat cow skin, but is really not common. Beef skin is high in collagen, which is a type of protein. But other than that, there's barely any nutritional value in beef skin. Beef skin, when properly prepared, is often described as having a chewy, slightly rubbery, and savory flavor. I'll give beef skin a D tier because it's just empty calories, but it's at least edible. Alright, we now move on to liver, a very popular organ, but also most people hate it because of the taste. Liver is one of the best meats at providing nutrients, even more than eggs and fish, and that's saying something because of how much I give my praises to eggs and fish. Liver is pretty much the multivitamins of meat. I'm going to show you a picture of how much vitamins and nutrients and minerals all of the stuff beef liver provides. Just look at the vitamin and mineral content of like copper, vitamin A, vitamin B12. They're all so high. In fact, eating too much liver can cause vitamin A toxicity, so you should treat it more like vitamins than food. Another downside is it's kind of high in cholesterol, but I can't deny how good liver is for you. As for beef liver, it is described as a strong, earthy, slightly sweet and gamey flavor. With a unique texture that can be polarizing, some describe it as a metallic or bitter, while others find it delicious. It probably tastes metallic because of the high mineral content, but there's probably a way to cook it to make it less strong. Liver gets an S tier, and I can only think of one organ that might compete on its level. Yes, anus is considered an organ. I searched up what does anus taste like, and I think it was trying to lead me to some corn websites, so I'm gonna give it an F tier for ruining my life. Not related to the last organ in the slightest, we have tongue. Before we talk about any of the stats, in my opinion, tongue is probably the best tasting meat of them all because of how tender and juicy the meat is when cooked right. There isn't any metallic taste or anything, just delicious. Unfortunately, tongue isn't as nutritious as the other organs. It does have a good amount of vitamins like B12, B2, B3, B6, iron, and zinc, but tongue is pretty high in saturated fat. It does have a good amount of protein though. Since it is my tier list, I give tongue an A tier for tasting the best. I ate intestine tacos one time and then I got really sick, so they get an F tier. Down to the last two items, we have lungs. Lungs aren't half as nutrient rich as liver and is generally less popular. That doesn't mean lung isn't a good meat to be eating though. It provides a nice level of nutrients. Again, lungs are pretty high in cholesterol, which is a thing I've noticed for most of these organs, but lungs are a very good source in iron. Iron is good for healthy muscles and providing more oxygen circulation throughout the body. This is you without iron. Beef lung has a mild, slightly iron-like flavor that some describe as beefy with a hint of earthiness. I can see why it would have an iron-like flavor. I would give lungs a B tier or maybe even an A tier. I'm on the fence about lungs. You know what? They do help you breathe, so A tier it is. The last organ we have, and arguably the most important organ to a creature, is the heart. 100 grams of beef heart has 28 grams of protein, by the way, which is crazy, but let's get to the real stats. Cholesterol, relatively low compared to other organs, around 71% of your daily intake. For nutrients, it isn't the greatest like liver, but it's not bad either. I would say it's comparable to most fish or even eggs. So that's definitely a high praise already. I think heart is better than liver because not only does it have more protein, it doesn't have an insane amount of minerals that would make you feel sick. Yes, I get those vitamins. Yes, getting in those vitamins and minerals are crucial, but liver is just too much. You should think of liver more like multivitamins than actual food. Because if you eat too much liver, you'll overdose on vitamin A or copper and stuff like that. Heart is more balanced with his nutrition, and that's why I think heart is at the top of S tier. As for the taste, beef heart has generally been described as meaty and robust, similar to steak, but with a slightly richer, more gamey flavor. Which already sounds tastier than liver, because if you ever tried liver, it's like eating blood and metal. I don't have an outro. Subscribe.